Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all the things you do when you visit a YouTube video. Do those. By the way, thanks for the comment. We had a comment about Journey Amundsen, actually. Look, I don't have the name in front of me right now. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I had stuff going on all day. But he said that he saw her at the Indiana State track meet, and he said she was fantastic. So thank you for commenting. Follow that guy's lead or that woman's lead and comment on our videos if you have something to say about the Billikens. It's season 5 of the Midtown Madness Podcast, and once again, we are brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Two Men in a Garden is my absolute favorite salsa, especially locally here in St. Louis. They have all the flavors you need to satisfy whatever craving you have when it comes to salsa and pickles. And it's the perfect companion to a Billiken win or a Billiken loss or during a Billiken game. It's going to elevate your pregame, postgame, or midgame snacking. Visit them online at twomeninthegarden.com to shop your favorite flavors and learn more about their Kitchen Hub STL. Don't forget to follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter for the latest updates. Pete, vibes are kind of high right now.
Vibes are kind of high, Zach. They definitely are. I do always wonder with SLU how fragile the high vibes are. But my
high vibes are always fragile. Yeah. I think we understand that. We've learned that. This is what I'm learning through this podcast that I call therapy.
Yes. Yeah. I know it.
Well, they're not just kind of elevated. I wouldn't say they're high by the play on the court. I think, you come off a 3-game losing streak. You win a game. You win it convincingly. So vibes are good.
Yeah.
Vibes are fine. Vibes are copacetic. But the vibes are extremely high when it comes to Billikens off the Division I NCAA basketball court.
They are, Zach. We've got some active NBA players right now.
A couple. I would say, I the same amount as Dayton. Potentially, actually, we have more active NBA players considering Toumani Camara is not on the court right now. I think he's injured.
Is he hurt? Yeah.
I think he's been hurt this entire season. Useless, if you ask me.
He definitely played fairly recently.
Did he? I don't know.
He did. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The Billikens have two active NBA players for the first time in a long time. Joel mentioned it on Twitter.
He did. So now with Yuri Collins being called up to the Golden State Warriors on Tuesday the 18th, they signed him to a 10-day contract. It's the first time since the 1968-1969 season that SLU has had multiple players on NBA rosters active at the same time. Rich Neiman, Bob Ferry, and Barry Orms at that time. So it's been over 50 years, Zach. Man,
I remember watching them play in their rookie season. Those guys were incredible in the NBA.
Some really, really good players. Yeah.
Oh, God. That was only 30 years before the birth of me.
Just a couple years there, but it's like we saw them in person, right? So he made his debut today as we record this, Zach, on Sunday. Yes. Playing 6 minutes, going 1 of 3 from the field, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 fouls in a 126-102 win over the Dallas Mavericks. I think it's safe to say he tried to make his presence felt in his limited minutes.
Yeah, he did. The steal was very, very nice. And that little step back jumper he had, I mean, that was as classic Yuri Collins as it gets.
Yeah, they were all inside the 3-point line, his attempts. And one of his rebounds was an offensive rebound. So even in the NBA, when you're Yuri's size, you can,
he learned from number 0.
That he did. And speaking of numbers, he was the first Golden State Warrior ever to wear the number 99. Now that the NBA has gotten rid of its numeral restrictions on jerseys, so that's pretty fun too. He found ways to stand out.
Yeah, if anybody would like to give me a knockoff Yuri Collins Chinese jersey off Temu or some shit, feel free. I'll give you the PO box. No, when the most important question here, the thing that's on every Billiken fan's mind is quite obviously, when will Jordan Goodwin and Yuri Collins play against each other?
So the next time the Warriors and Lakers are scheduled to play is April 3rd in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, that is outside, obviously, the 10-day window that Yuri Collins has on this little deal here. And it would also require Goodwin to be signed to a conventional contract and not the two-way deal that he's on right now. So there are some moving pieces. It's not completely outside of the realm of possibility, but it does seem unlikely that we'll actually see them play each other. Things would have to not just go well in terms of their minutes, but there would have to be like roster and financial things that work in their favor on both sides. So I'm not holding my breath, but I'm really hoping that it works out, because that would be incredible.
Yeah, it would. I mean, that would be the first time in any of our lifetimes that any Billikens have squared off in the NBA. And hopefully they would get on the court at the same time. It feels like the NBA is the type of league that would bend over a little bit to make a storyline like that pop at the end of a game.
If it's the fourth quarter and we're kind of, cruising towards a certain outcome, I would love to think that they know what's up there and would let that happen for sure.
Some surprise. Pete, did you know Larry Hughes didn't enter the transfer portal already?
Yeah. So you and I had the same reaction then, because when I saw the news that he did enter the transfer portal, I'm like, didn't we find this out like a month ago? Like, what's going on?
Did you not file the paperwork? Was the former compliance director at St. Louis University working for Larry Hughes?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Did she not file the paperwork on time?
That's who they hired to handle the legal side of things.
Oh.
Yeah, I had no idea that it didn't happen, but apparently he officially entered the transfer portal on Wednesday. He's been working out at Overtime Elite in the meantime with Corey Frazier. I think his dad's down there too for the time being. So they're hanging out there. I believe it's in Atlanta for the next couple months. And we'll see what the portal brings him, Zach. I don't really know what he's looking for. I don't know what he thinks, he is, or that his game should be, and why he was not able to fulfill that at SLU.
And I don't know what other teams think he is either. Like, I mean, to be honest, he could end up like a Miles Reynolds, but he could also end up like, I don't know. Give me anybody that went to a tiny NEC school or some shit like that, like a Svet Soderov. I don't know.
Who had 17 the other day?
Well, you know what? He had it at NIU.
Yeah, NIU. Yeah.
So he could go OVC. He could be a deep role player on a 500 SEC team or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so if memory serves, Miles Reynolds took a bigger role at Pacific for a season and then transferred to Oklahoma.
No, wait, Marcus Bartley?
Bartley went to
SIU?
SIUC, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so he could be a Miles Reynolds, could be a Marcus Bartley. Well, we have two options here.
Or Phil Russell is another example kind of what Reynolds did. Is he went down a step, took on a bigger role, and then parlayed that into a like more of a higher level team, right?
Yeah.
Like he went to UT Arlington,
Sure.
SEMO, and then up to VCU. Reynolds went to Pacific and then up to Oklahoma. So sometimes you get a step down, a step up. The weird thing here is, Zach, is that they say in this announcement that he has 2 years of eligibility. But I thought he had 2 years of eligibility heading into this season, and he played what, 10 or 11 games or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering where that extra season of eligibility is coming from. Maybe there's something I don't know, but yeah, he's saying
everything's made up and the points don't matter anymore. Haven't you learned this?
Kind of feels like that, doesn't it? I really I want everything to have a little explainer with it, right? Like
we need community notes.
Yes. For footnote your graphics. That's all I'm asking. A little asterisk in the graph, and then in your tweet, explain.
Please give me a works cited page with your tweet.
I don't think we're asking too much.
I need a works cited page. Is it a works cited or a bibliography at that point?
I guess it depends on the format of the paper, but
is it MLA or is
I've been out of the academic world for almost 20 years now. Wow, yeah, just about 20 years now. Yeah. So I don't know.
We need to do, whoever wants to do research on that, let me know. Let's pour one out for the career of a real one.
Yeah, Zach. I guess we have to, don't we? Pour one out, a career of the real one. Fran Dunphy is the real one. He will be retiring at the end of the season. It was announced on Thursday afternoon with his LaSalle Explorers in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. I think old Fran at the age of 76 just decided it was time. Yeah. And Zach, I made a point on Twitter that I think is true and that didn't get a lot of traction. I think probably because I tweeted it at like midnight, but I just had a thought that like there seems to be so much goodwill with LaSalle, the other Philly schools, and then the other A10 schools. All of them are just like, you know what? Cheers, Fran. Here's to a great guy. Like I feel like no matter what other coach would retire or leave or whatever, you know, the people we know around the A10 would have some kind of pissy remark or something. I started thinking about every other coach in the conference, and I don't know if there's anyone else who would everyone would be like, oh, Fran, you know, like happy. Like I want to be at his retirement party.
I wonder, is it because LaSalle is so inoffensive? Is it because that nobody has been done like hard done by LaSalle in any context?
Yeah. They're so non-threatening. I think except for that year, 12 years ago, where
South Philly floater,
right, where they went to the Sweet 16 that one year. But even that didn't feel like it was at the expense of the league, right? Like that was kind of at the pinnacle of the league. That was a really strong era for the A10. So I don't think anyone was too upset by that either. So no, I think that's part of it. You know, there's also the fact that, you know, Fran is not one of these guys. He's not like even a Travis Ford or an Anthony Grant or somebody who has done things to kind of piss off opposing fans. Yeah. He's not like a Hurley who carries himself on the sideline in a way that is hard to defend. He
dresses like a mortuary attendant.
He does.
Like he's just kind of like, oh my God, what is he? What's a great comparison to him? He
really does look like the guy who's like, you're in Parlor too.
Yes. But I'm thinking of like kind of just another type of guy, like who's a celebrity, or he just doesn't wear suits that, like, he's not a stylish guy.
No,
he's just kind of Fran.
Yeah. Like, there is something to that.
It's remarkable that he was able to relate to the youth of America and sometimes like Argentina at that point in his career, even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like he does, like there's no way he should be able to recruit.
Right.
Like he just, everything about him, nothing about him screams like cool or like savvy, or, you know, but like, I don't know. He's just like a good dude. And I think that's why people like him. He doesn't exude any sort of era about him. He's just kind of a guy.
Imagine being like a Philadelphia area recruit and like Billy Lang and Kyle Neptune have just come through your living room and now here's Fran Dunphy. You know what I
His
mean?
name is Dunphy.
Dunphy.
Like, like even in the show Modern Family, Dunphy is not a sexy name.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's just it doesn't sound good. It's not like if you put it in comic book font on a page, Dunphy. Like it's like a somebody falling.
Yes.
That's the sound of Dunphy. Like
I
it's
know.
just but he's so like I mean this with like total reverence and sincerity. The guy just he's likable. Like they said on the broadcast, what did he say? He said when your alma mater comes calling that to help and they need help,
Yeah.
that's what you do. That's just what you do. And I think it also rolls into kind of how LaSalle University Athletic Department should be commended because the vision is clear here. You are trying to get a new arena situated inside of Tom Gola Natatorium. Yeah. But you need the money to go out and build this arena. Get Fran Dunphy to tide your program over to steady the ship. And then once you get that arena built, then you can attract a bigger name.
Yeah, that's right, and that's kind of what they've done is because
yes.
This did very much feel like his tenure at LaSalle, which admittedly this season has not gone as well as hoped, but there were some positive signs coming into this season. But anyway, it felt like he was kind of keeping the seat warm, for the next hire, the right person. And they've already announced that he does have a sort of fundraising job basically after this. He's got they're calling him like special assistant.
Put him on a Chris May deal.
He has some kind of title that will basically pay him a modest salary to show up at fundraising events and shake hands and stuff like that. And so it's exactly the kind of end to his career that I think everybody had in mind when they hired him. Is like he's there to transition this program into something else and then take a fundraising job. And so I'm very, very curious to see who they do go for the next hire.
They learned that from the Angels contract with Pujols.
Yeah,
they signed him for like 15 years and then to be like a mentor for the final 10.
Right.
I love it. I love it. It's I can't remember the AD over there, but full credit to him for having this foresight and this plan and vision because they're setting themselves up for a few years down the road. That's what they've been doing the last 3 years under Dunphy or whatever.
Yep exactly.
Yeah, he's a real one. And I realized, as I said, pour one out for the career of a real one. I realized that could have gone either way. Larry Hughes Jr. or Fran Dunphy.
Yeah.
All right. We've been at this for, I don't know, 15 minutes and we're already kind of off the rails.
Not at all. This is what people wanted to hear.
I feel like nobody's listening to us for the hard hitting stuff. Like nobody wants to hear us break down screens and shit.
You got to go to Rockio for that.
Yes.
I mean, we know our place.
Yes.
We know our place.
81-66 win against Rhode Island Saturday the 22nd. Rhode Island sat just a game behind the Billikens or a half game. But I think Billiken fans certainly did not view them as any sort of competition or should not be any competition coming into this game. And I wanted to get into it, but I wanted to start from a tweet that the Billiken basketball account put out, and it's the cinematic recap. And in that, it starts out with Schertz in the locker room as it does usually. Excuse me. He says, Schertz says, a new season starts today. It's 5 games, 16 days. And I'm curious if you think there's any deeper meaning to that. when it's combined with the usage of Amari McCottry and to a lesser extent Max Picard and kind of a lesser usage of Kolulanya in this game.
So what I would say to that is number one, I haven't watched the cinematic recap yet. I haven't been online all day basically, but I would take from that a message that it's like kind of a motivator, right? Like it's, don't worry about the ups and downs that we've just been through. I want you guys to look at these next 5 games, and then, we'll focus on the conference tournament and whatever comes after that as it comes up. So number one, I think it's just to sort of reset their mentality and put everything else behind them and not worry about that and just play. So I think that's the number one message. And even if that's a cliche or whatever, I really do think that's sincere. And I think that's what they're going for. Number two, I don't know if I would take a deeper meaning, although I would acknowledge that I think the fact that he did use the bench more will signal a willingness to do so the rest of the way, right? Whereas maybe he's been a little bit more concerned about, maybe he played it a little more conservatively with sticking with the starters in the hopes of holding on to a top 4 seed. But now that you have to kind of play from behind, you can go for broke a little bit more. I don't know. That's probably, I think, what it means. I don't think he's necessarily trying to send a message or that there's a deeper meaning. I think it's more just like, we're open to doing this however we got to do this.
Yeah, I think, and to clarify my thought process is that, you saw that I think you combine it also with Schertz in the post game talked with Rammer and Earl and basically said that McCottry, and he didn't say Picard, but I think with Picard shooting and making his only 3-point attempt in this game, that both of them give them a look that is similar to that Loyola, not Loyola Marymount, Lincoln Memorial or Indiana State offense. And I think that's where some of my frustration has come from, that we're not just running the same play. Like run the playbook. You did it at those 2 schools and let's ride. Cause that's why we wanted you here.
Yeah.
So I guess some of that, me reading into it, is kind of projecting my frustration and what I wanted out of this program. But I didn't know if you thought the same.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would not have put that level of thought into, into this necessarily, but I do kind of share the same thing as you. And even at one point in this game, Zach, you tweeted out, "Why is no one moving when Robbie has the ball?" And he's backing down his man, and they're all, the other 4 just kind of watching. I don't remember exactly how you phrased it.
I said, why is nobody moving when Robbie has the ball? Stop staring at him.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Right. And that's the kind of thing that we never would have tweeted last season watching Indiana State, because you just felt like there was constant movement. There was trust. Like you see 5 guys on the floor trusting each other at all times, kind of knowing what they're going to do, what actions they can make on a given play. And we do kind of go in and out of that a little bit more. There were times in this game where I thought, ooh, there's that 2-man game we've been missing. And Robbie and maybe Jimerson would have that working for a couple possessions in a row. But then we do kind of get away from that as well, and then all of a sudden we're standing around while he backs in a guy from 18 feet out. Which,
by the way, is also fun. Yeah. But you can move. Like, you don't have to stand still while I understand that the idea behind that is isolation basketball. And it works better with McCottry in the game because he can pull an extra guy out to the 3-point line. And I understand that, but also, can we not set screens away or, interchange in some way around that perimeter? You're trying to take away that help defense. I get that, but it can't be every time. And by God, do I enjoy watching Robbie Avila just kind of work a guy over for 20 seconds of a 30-second shot clock. It It is the dumbest shit I've ever seen, but also some of the most beautiful basketball. Like, actually, it's not beautiful. It's ugly as sin.
It's not beautiful.
But the ball goes in the basket.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be beautiful if it works. And one of the things here in this game, Zach, right? Like we
still have the game to talk about.
It's a home game against a mid-tier at best A10 team after an 8-day break, right? Our longest break of the season. You had to look convincing in this game. They just 100%. Had to. And did they is kind of a tricky question. Like in the end, I would say yes.
Hold on. Back to the cinematic recap. Back to the Schertz says, what's the answer? It's both simple and complicated or complex.
Mm-hmm.
And that in this moment, this is both simple and complex.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because it wasn't always easy, right? I mean, like they did for more than half of this game. They didn't make it easy on us.
Yeah, they didn't. And we missed some bunnies. Open shots as well, and that kept Rhodey in this for longer than preferred. And I think those are the two by far the only reasons why this game wasn't a 30-point blowout.
Yeah, I think the missed layups was really, I think that's the number one reason if I had to pick one, especially in the first half, right? It was one of those halves where the offense looks good, the ball's moving, the shots were open, and somehow is only leading by 6 the break, where you felt like it should have had a 1 in front of that 6, right? Like the way that half went. I can't explain the missed layups. It also didn't help that I think at halftime, Robbie was either 1 of 5 or 1 of 6 from outside. And then he would go on to miss his next few first attempts of the second half. And we'll get into that. But even if he makes a couple of those, you're not really talking about the missed layups so much because you're still up by double digits. So primarily the missed layups though. And I don't have an explanation there.
No, and I really don't have a problem with it. Like I'm not sitting here and gonna belabor the point on them because I feel like that it was a major anomaly for this season. And I thought it so much so that I was kind of I was shocked when I saw someone imply that it was an ongoing issue. I don't remember if it was Twitter or Billikens.com, but I read it and I was like, what? I mean, because like we've had some teams that missed easy, but like not easy, like buckets, but missed bunnies, like think about those, like first 3 years of Conklin, how many people complained about his missed bunnies?
Oh God.
I mean, the Travis Ford years when we were bully balling it, Hassan French, Jordan Goodwin would miss those tough baskets at the hoop all the time. And on this team, I just don't see that.
Yeah. It's interesting because now that you say that, it really does feel like we've always, no matter who the coach is, no matter what the era is, like we've always complained about missed layups in a way that, we think it's unique to us or something like that. And I don't think that this team is necessarily bad at it. You look at our 2-point percentage of 60% on the season, and that's 4th in the country.
Yeah.
You can't really be upset about that.
No.
Like we're getting as many looks at the basket as we possibly can. Now, I do think, and Schertz brought this up multiple times in the post game, that there is some athleticism disadvantage for this team, right? Like he will just flat out say we give up athleticism, and that's true most nights. We really do, and I think there are times where I'm just like, just dunk it, like, there are other times where I'm like, we have to have guys who are, and we're missing Thames and we're missing a few other guys who are more creative and acrobatic and athletic finishers who might have some more ability there. But we
have Dylan Warlick.
We have Dylan Warlick. That feathery hair going out to the basket is hard to beat. It
is feathered and lethal, Cotton.
So anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is that these games just kind of happen. It's frustrating. I think another one was George Washington. I felt like we missed a lot of layups in that game, and being there in person for that one is probably why I remember that more than some others. But I think overall it would be hard to make the case that it's been a problem for the season. And to me, that's why it stood out so much in this game.
Yeah. What also stood out was, unfortunately, Isaiah Swope. He had a rough first half. It just not good.
No, the decision making was an issue. He seemed to get worse over the course of the half, which was odd. It culminated in a bad final play out of a timeout. You'd like to get a good look there. We had over 20 seconds on the clock, and you wound up with kind of a desperation heave from Robbie from pretty far out. And I don't know why that's all we got, but look, we've said it all year long. Swope's not a point guard. He's kind of being forced to play out of position a little bit, and I just don't. I don't think he's ever kind of been comfortable in that role. It's not exactly what he was able to do at Indiana State, and I do feel for him a little bit there because I think Doetzler and a couple other guys probably could have helped that situation. So I don't know. I think that's a problem, and there's no way around it. I wish he could kind of be more comfortable in that role.
Yeah, I just didn't like. I think he plays hard. I think he. All of the, he's a great player, especially when he's shooting well, and moving the ball. But in that play, he just didn't come to the ball. It was like he wasn't really like expecting to be involved in the play or have to do anything. And it was like a token movement towards the ball. And, I could call out McCottry on that as well. Mm-hmm. McCottry had, Swope comes out. If Swope comes out closer to the backcourt or even into the backcourt, McCottry can come to the ball on a parallel run, and but like Swope doesn't even it's not even an explosive movement towards the ball, and then he gets the ball, and he was careless with his dribble. It wasn't even some sort of attempt to go to the hoop. He just kind of bobbled it, and then. First half or second half, I don't really remember, but he tried that bullet pass, and it went right into the chest of a Rhode Island player. Couldn't have made a better pass to that guy if he tried.
It was pretty unbelievable. I kind of, that was one where I almost had to rewind it and play it again because I'm like, it looked like a glitch in the game.
Yeah.
It just
that ended up in that guy's all the time.
But Zach, quick trivia question for you.
Yes.
The only SLU player leading the A10 in any statistical category. Can you guess what the player and category is?
Oh my. The only Billiken leading, it has to be
it's relevant to what we were just discussing.
Okay, so it's Isaiah Swope.
Yeah.
Is it? It's not. It's not turnovers, is it?
It's turnovers. It's Isaiah Swope and turnovers. Yeah, he's got 80 turnovers this season. Oh my god! And that's good for first. And we're not leading the A10 in any other category. No player is, except Swope and turnovers. And so that's just to me it's a guy playing out of position and not valuing the ball enough, unfortunately. But look, it took the Bills a while to get going in the second half too. Rhode Island got to within one just 3 minutes into the second half. Just a disaster of a start to the half. But SLU answered with a 7-0 run, and it was never less than a 7-point lead the rest of the way.
No. This was kind of like when, with Swope, again, to harp on him, because why not? This was kind of like when the pitcher leaves runners on base and gets saddled with the earned runs. You're up 6 at halftime. You really could have gone up 8 or 9 there. And, you had a chance to put another gash in the psyche of Rhode Island. Instead, you give them a confidence building stop into halftime, and they come out and they have the ball first, down 6. I mean, that they have a chance to cut the lead to a 1-possession game with a 3, and then you get the bench and the people behind it yelling boom, and then the building gets tense, and then you're down 1 or you're up 1 then at that point, and it's just Michael Gaines tweeted out, we just don't have any killers, we don't have any, just just be a killer instinct. Like go out and take it to him. I don't care. Like that's a play where I would have been fine getting it into Kobe Johnson. Literally just give it to Robbie. Give it to Robbie and get out of the way. I don't understand why that's not our plan.
Right as he was tweeting that out, and I agree with him completely, Gaines, on the lack of killers. I was texting with a couple friends and saying, like, there just isn't that guy who you can see it in him, right? Yeah. Like when we had the exhibition game, I thought Swope was that guy. Yeah. It was like, oh, he's the one who, he's going to take crazy heat check kind of shots sometimes. But when we go on like 12-0 runs, it's going to be because he is feeling it and you can see it. Yeah. And he really hasn't been that. And it's kind of surprised me. We don't have anyone else who you can really see it, like their energy. I think Jimerson plays really hard, but he's really consistent. He's really even keel. Schertz has talked about publicly Kobe Johnson, Robbie Avila, other guys on this team are just not the least bit emotional. They're introverts. They're not, they just don't show it, right? So we don't go on runs and you have a lot of guys whose demeanor does not change over the course of the game. There's nobody who's like, doing crazy stuff, pumping up the crowd.
And I think that might have been Kellen Thames.
It very well could have been. I mean, imagine one of those runs that kind of fell apart, and instead of like us going up 5 or 7, and then all of a sudden we're back down up by 2 or 3, Kellen Thames winds up with like a steal and a dunk. Yeah. Right. Like that to me is the one that changes like the whole complexion of a run. If you can have one of those instead of, we missed a layup and they hit a 3 at the other end. So anyway, I think there's a psychological or emotional element to this that might be getting kind of overlooked a little bit, and it could be just as simple as Gaines says, like we just don't have those killers on this team,
and it could be part of the reason Chaffetz has not been rocking to a certain extent. I mean, we don't necessarily have the guy who's going to go out there and tell Chaffetz Arena what they need to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's right.
Like our fans are good. They're fine when they show up in numbers, but they're not the type to just kind of do it themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if we do have fans of fighting in the stands, sometimes it's not happening on the floor. We have, like I just said, introverted, quiet, cerebral. I think we have very smart players, but just not the kind who are who bring that certain kind of energy. So I absolutely think that's part of it.
Screw it. They don't listen to me, but I'll challenge them anyway. I want to see one player. What next home game? I don't even know when our next home game. Will Loyola? Dude.
Yeah.
If we have a good crowd, it's going to be drunk assholes. All right. It's Mardi Gras, people. Like I want one of our players. I want one of these Billikens. Jimerson, you've been here for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. You've been here 6 years.
Yeah.
You've been here 6 years. Get the crowd going, man. Get the crowd going. That's somebody, anybody. Yeah. You don't have to do it. You don't have to you can just do it. Like you don't even have to be the one to make the play. But like you make a 3 cut like on the sideline by the fans, slap some hands on the way down. Yeah. Get the crowd going.
Yeah, I want to see somebody roar. We don't have the dudes who roar.
We don't have play. Let your Billiken roar, Peter.
Let the Billiken roar.
People forget I was on that. No, I was on the Roar is Back billboard. That's what it was.
Was that the one?
Yeah, okay. That was it. That was the next year. Let Your Billiken Roar was genuine. I thought that was genuinely like so far out there that it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense, but who gives a shit?
No, it made no sense at all.
Yeah, but like the Billiken makes no sense, right?
Right.
There's nothing. It's like the Arch Baron Cup doesn't need to be a cup. Because it doesn't, it's a fugazi, right? Anyway, but like I'm saying, like that's what you leave behind when you carelessly give up a chance to score it at the end of a half.
Yep.
It can see like you can lose a game right there. That's where you can lose it. Or you not lose the game, but that's where you can lose control of the game.
Yeah, it changes the whole tenor of the game. And, look, we responded in the second half.
Yes.
We almost let it slip away early. And one of the reasons, Zach, is they had two players shooting really well. Jamarcus Lawrence went 5 of 6 from 3, and David Green went 4 of 6. And there were times where they'd hit a shot and you'd go, is this really happening again?
I didn't even notice. Honestly, I knew they were making shots, but it just didn't. Again, I go back to that SIUE game, that loss at home when I was sick and I was watching on TV and I was sitting on the couch and it didn't occur to me that they were keeping up with us or coming back or climbing back into the game. It didn't occur to me that Rhode Island was answering us because we were continuing to press them.
Right.
We were pressing the issue the entire game and continuing to make shots and score baskets. So even when we were missing wide open threes, but I don't think I even noticed Jamarcus Lawrence and David Green in this one because the Billikens I thought were playing good basketball.
Do you think it's also the fact that it was two guys and not just one guy?
Yeah, probably. It wasn't Tyler Ralph, who, by the way, shows up so randomly on our Twitter timeline. Yes. He showed up on a Monday Majerus and gave he was giving big props to Majerus in a reply to Biancardi.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what? I was he's yeah, well, he didn't say anything, but I was like, wait a minute. You're the dude who closed down our Scott trade account with 6 threes against Majerus.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Very funny.
The 3-point defense overall, though, people have really been complaining about it lately, and it is a recency bias kind of thing because the last 4 games, right? Rhode Island was 10 of 22, that's 46%.
Yeah.
Loyola 12 of 24 for 50%. 46% again when Mason went 15 of 33, 11 of 31 St. Joe's. That's 36%. And then you skip the UMass game because they didn't shoot well, but Dayton was 11 of 28.
And we won that game.
Yeah, we won that game too. So it's 5 of the last 6 games where the 3-point defense has been a problem. And there was really only one other stretch of the season, that UMass, Lowell, Jackson State, and San Francisco stretch, where we had 3 games in a row where the 3-point defense was bad. Other than that, you have a game here and there that's not great, but the 3-point defense has been great. Teams have not shot well against us at all. So it does feel lately you're why can't we guard the 3? It really is the past 3 weeks that have been a problem. And when you look at the 3-point defense overall this season, teams are shooting 32% against us, which isn't bad. It's not bad at all. And so I guess I just want to make people aware of it's a problem recently. I do think teams have kind of they've really, really outperformed what they normally do against us, but I don't think it's an overall structural issue or anything like that.
Yeah, I really can't find. I mean, again, maybe going under a screen here or there. But I think you're just gonna have stretches. We talk about 3-point defense and how kind of unscientific it can be.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go through stretches where people miss shots on you. Sometimes you go through stretches where your opponents can't miss, the George Mason game.
Yeah, Woody Newton.
I'm not gonna sit here and belabor that goofy named asshole going off on us. That's not what he's been doing. Why would you prepare for that?
That's truly one of the inexplicable things. Yeah, I mean, really in sports is occasionally you're going to have a game where someone does something to affect the outcome of a game, and it's not something that he does at all, right? We gave the rundown after that game of all the statistical reasons why that guy on that team in that game should never have done that, and yet he did it, and they barely won the game because of
this sounds like a secret base video on YouTube. If anybody gets that reference,
not at all.
John Boys. If you're a fan of John Boys, no,
I don't know.
You seem like you would be a fan of John Boys. Yeah, you'd be a John
Maybe
Boy's
there
fan.
are
You should
millions of things out there. That
go watch
there.
John Boy's video on the 1904 Olympic marathon. It's insane. It's hilarious. It's ridiculous. Go watch it.
I wrote about the 1904 marathon in my American Studies class.
Do you still have that paper?
There's no way I still have it.
I would love to read that paper.
Yeah.
That is the only scholarly paper I think I'd be okay trying to read.
Yeah, I wrote all about the that Olympics in that class though. I spent part of my spring break in 2005 at the Missouri Historical Society on like the west edge of Forest Park.
Nerd!
I mean, dude, just the coolest guy ever. But yeah, I got an A in the class, so I guess it was worth it.
The 1904 Olympic marathon is chaos. Go watch that video.
It's awesome. But anyway, back to 2025.
Please.
So the Woody Newton game is something that's truly inexplicable, and I think overall, yeah, you can, like you said, you can point to individual times where it's like, okay, we should have switched on that. You shouldn't have gone under there, things like that. But I don't know. Overall, I don't think this is going to last forever.
No, but we're talking about statistical anomalies, and there's one coming up. But first, we need to talk about, because it's part of two crucial things.
Yep.
That the Billikens did to win this game on the defensive end. The first one, Pete, they shut down Sebastian Thomas.
He's a guy that when we did our brief little scout on Rhode Island, you got to highlight first because he scores over 18 points a game. He's got 5 game-winning shots this season. He's one of those guys who is the kind of guy you prepare for, who can really heat up and change the whole complexion of a game. So 18 points a game, we held him to 8 points. He did have 9 assists, but only one of those came in the second half, and he only had 3 of his 8 points in the second half as well. So shutting him down, forcing the other guys to beat you, I think was crucial. And, if they weren't hitting shots like they were, this one would have been a laugher even earlier.
The statistical anomaly that I alluded to, and it is shocking, but I have questions about this. The Billikens kept Rhode Island off the offensive glass, Pete, and I mean they actually kept them off of it.
Yeah. 0 offensive rebounds. I think I heard someone say that was the second time this season, like that's happened, period. But I don't know if they meant D1 or A10 or what they meant. It was one of those things like I heard quickly, and I heard it, I didn't read it. So
yeah, look that up and comment down below.
Let us
see. I'm being a good YouTuber right now.
It was kind of amazing though, Zach, because it just didn't feel like Rhode Island was very aggressive in this game at all. They're not a bad offensive rebounding team.
I thought they were supposed to be a good rebounding team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I even said is because, like, that's one of the things I worry about, right? Like, I'm always looking at, like, okay, does this team hit the glass? And offensive rebounds. I'm looking now; they get about 10 a game. They're not.
That's more. That's 10 more than 0 against the Billikens.
So pretty average, but they don't give up a lot of offensive rebounds. So anyway, it was one of those things where Brown and Fuchs are the guys that are the ones who would be getting offensive rebounds. And not only did we keep those two off, we kept everybody off the glass.
Do you think, is it possible that this was part of the game plan? Is it like, I'm trying to figure out how to attribute this to the Billikens in a certain way. Does it have something to do with the usage of, does it have something to do with McCottry playing more minutes? Positionally, does that change the equation? Or is this just exactly what it is? A statistical anomaly in Rhode Island not being aggressive on the glass, which is a main ingredient to beat the Billikens.
I didn't put this in my notes, but did we play any zone in this game?
No,
I don't think we did. That didn't stand out to me as something we did in this game. So number one is we didn't go to a zone, and we have had as many problems as we've had giving up offensive rebounds out of a zone. It's even worse. So I think that's one factor. I think number two is Rhode Island must have just, I don't know what their game plan was, but they were not crashing hard.
I mean, were they worried about our transition offense? Because, I mean, you look through that game and there was the Billikens in transition. They got good transition movement, but that Rhode Island size really was playing havoc with the Billiken psyche in that, especially in that first half, because there were many, like we talk about those bunnies, like those don't happen in a vacuum. Those were not easy shots. And I think that's the difference between the Billikens field goal percentage and making bunnies versus missing bunnies, because like it felt like Rhode Island was there in our ass on with their transition defense, especially, and causing us to make some poor decisions.
Yeah, I think so. Although I think that kind of went away in the second half, like we did have just 11 turnovers in the game, which is a number that I'm totally fine with. I think it was 7 at halftime. So that was good. We had 13 fast break points, not a huge number. So maybe that was part of their strategy, is like, hey, don't let Swope and Jimerson, get going in transition or anything like that. That very well could have been part of it. They know Jimerson is always hunting that sort of transition three to kind of keep them on their heels. I don't know what it was. I'd have to go. I haven't rewatched this game. I'd have to go back and kind of look at what Rhodey was doing. But
speaking of rewatching this game, holy shit. The announcers, John Giannini was class as always, right? Dr. John was class, although I think he gets a lot wrong. He's just a classy guy. But like the play-by-play guy was a dork. Like, I'm not the coolest guy, right? I'm a college basketball fan who hosts a podcast. That's dorky as it gets. But this guy was like trying to use like memes and stuff, like verbal meme. It was bizarre. He was very much fellow kids in it out there.
Yeah. It didn't bother me all too much throughout the game. It's I don't know. Every once in a while, you're right.
You would hear him. It wasn't bothersome. It was just every once in a while you'd roll your eyes.
Yeah. Like it's more like it would remind me like, oh, okay, this is not a pairing we're used to seeing with our games, right? Yeah. Like that's where it would kind of like jar me out of it, is you're not hearing like Ackerman or Rammer or whoever.
Right.
We just talked about how SLU had 11 turnovers. So combined with that offensive rebound differential that we already talked about, SLU had a positive field goal attempt differential for the first time this season against a D1 team. Forced 14 turnovers to 11. And Zach, I mean, it wasn't just positive. We had 19 more attempts than the Rams. We've just been looking to go +1, and all of a sudden we go +19, and that's a huge factor in this game.
Yeah, another huge factor is obviously the rebounding. We talked about the 11 more offensive boards than the Rhode Island Rams, and that means the Billikens had 11 of them. But the Billikens out-rebounded them totally 42-29, including 12 second chance points. Obviously, Rhode Island had 0 second chance points.
Yes.
Which is hilarious.
Those have killed us this year. They really have.
Yeah. Pop quiz, hot shot. Who was the best Billiken on the glass in this one?
Yeah, not Kaluanya.
No.
It was not Kaluanya in this game. It was Gibson Jimerson, Zach, and his 11 rebounds, along with his 21 points on 7 of 18 shooting, 5 of 14 from 3. 21 and 11 was his first career double-double in his 6th season here. Could you believe that?
Gibson Jimerson has finally evolved to his last form, and that is a complete basketball player. And the amount of like shock and horror from like Rhode Island fans on Twitter was bizarre. They were like, this was totally awful effort. Like, I couldn't believe, I mean, you gave up, Gibson Jimerson was wide open every shot. Like, I didn't see that. I saw good, like, I thought Rhode Island was pretty good. Not a good team, but pretty good.
They played. Yeah. There wouldn't have been much to complain about for the first 25 minutes of the game, right? It was, we went on a mini run, and then they kind of kept hanging around a little bit. It wasn't really until the last 8 minutes or so that we really put this thing away. So yeah, I think you're right there. I think the way that it ended, though, I did see the body language.
We're gonna talk about that. Should we talk about David Fuchs?
Yeah.
Should we talk about
also Archie, right? Like there was Archie on the sideline, like his head was completely hanging down at times, and so the game it was clear that it got away from him at one point, right?
I mean, the exclamation point of it was like Martell's give up slide in the replacements. He just throws up one of the lamest 3-point attempts in the history, just waving the white flag. And that was like, okay, that's ball game. We're done here.
Yeah, there were a few
his Rick Fox looking ass.
There were a few other kind of subtle things like that where you just thought, all right, they're already on the plane back home.
Yes.
You just kind of saw that happening. But credit to Jimerson for the double-double, you know. I think Schertz joked it only took 6 years to get there. But there was no sign of ankle pain in this game. I think the 8 day
I told you all he was sandbagging.
Yeah, the 8-day rest did wonders for him. And then also in this game, Zach, he passed Monroe Douglas as the program's all-time leader in field goals made. It was 767, I think, was the winning number. So he obviously added a few more after that because he hit it in the first half.
Anya did not do a whole lot in this one. He did not have a lot of minutes in this one. 17 minutes, 4 rebounds, 2 points. Those 2 points were outstanding, though. It was a really, really good play. Yep. He left in the second half, didn't return. I mean, it seems like 6 of Amari McCottry and Warlick having really good games in half a dozen of the matchups against Rhode Island.
Yeah, I think so. I think a change of pace may have been needed here. I think they gave us a little bit different look. They gave us good energy. Schertz rode with them despite some mistakes. And I think that was crucial because sometimes when Amari will make a couple in a row, get pulled, come out, he really can beat himself up. And, they both gave us some good minutes in this game, especially McCottry.
Oh, is Amari McCottry is he the X factor this team needs to be good? Like, is the emergence of Amari McCottry, does this team go as Amari McCottry goes?
You know, I had the thought, like, this is a guy we didn't expect a lot from coming into the season, but is he now doing the things that we needed Kellen Thames to be doing? Yeah. Some of those, like a little more rebounding, a little bit more finishing, some good defense. You know, he's got that size that can kind of create mismatches there. And let's skip Robbie and come back to him while we're at it. So,
fuck Robbie.
I had McCottry as the third star of the game, right? Career high 13 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers. Like I said before, he made some mistakes, but Schertz showed that trust in him. And he was on the floor when SLU was up 1 and then turned that into +8 pretty quickly and took control of the game. This is when Anya came out. And I don't know that Anya came back in after that.
I don't believe he did.
Yeah. So if he did, it was brief. So that was really crucial to me. I mean, I just think McCottry and whoever else he subbed in at the time, I think he subbed like 3 guys out and 3 guys in, really changed the tenor of the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think it's great to see because I've been highly critical of the both substitution patterns. The revolving door style of punishment subs we saw under Ford, where he'd yank guys for mistakes. But also, it's, Schertz, I've been critical of the usage of the bench, but also, being confident in his guys and instilling the confidence in them. And it's a refreshing change of pace where Schertz puts in a freshman. Again, you brought your guys here. You brought McCottry in to do a thing. Trust them enough to put them in the game and then trust them to self-correct. And stay the course, except for Isaiah Swope. Take him out whenever he messes up. I'm being facetious. He made 3 free throws.
Yeah.
That's big. He was shooting 50% prior to that.
that really felt important to me. Like, because that's like, if you're a freshman, you don't get to the line a whole lot. You hit 3 of them in 2 different stretches in this game, and that to me was just like kind of a sign, like he was calming his head down, right? Like he wasn't playing so in his head. He was able to get to the line, take a breath, and finish those. Just a really good performance all around. Let's circle back to Robbie Avila. As I hinted at before, he struggled from 3, but he hit a couple late to kind of help put this game away. Finished with 22 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, just 1 turnover, which I think is important given how he's been playing, lately. He led SLU at plus 25 for the day.
Beautiful.
As well. Another sign that things click with him out there. So he was 1 of 8 or 1 of 9 from 3 to start. That stretched into the second half. He was missing wide open looks. He ended up 3 of 12, which, isn't what you want. But man, Zach, these threes he was missing, he was wide open, and he had like a day to shoot these things, and they just weren't falling.
Yeah, this 3-point shooting is this issue where he goes long stretches without making a 3. He's starting to grate on me. We can't have him. He can't continue to miss. We saw the last 3 games. He's got to start being a little more efficient earlier, because there are games where shooting, 5 threes and missing is going to put you way behind.
Right.
So
yep.
we need a little more consistency. Like, I'm okay, maybe okay going 3 for 12, but give me, spread those out. I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad he had the 1 relatively early, and that it wasn't like an 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 before he hit a few.
Yeah.
We've seen that before, and you're right. I mean, I don't know what that is. Shooting on this, they were good shots. They're shots you don't, get upset about. There was I think when he was 1 of 8 or 9, whatever it was before he hit number 2. There were a few times where he got the ball up top and then didn't even do the thing where he kind of stops and looks and, makes his defender think like he's looking at a shot, right? He went right into another motion to hand the ball off, pass the ball, something like that, like didn't even look at the basket. So I was a little worried, like, oh boy, is he just going to abandon the 3 altogether? But
I thought he should at one point in that game.
Well, he came back to it, and then he hit, I guess it would be 2 of his last 3 or 4. So, you don't want him to be 25%, but I guess in the end it was fine. It wasn't Swope's best game, Zach.
No.
He had 8, 5, and 4. Luckily, all 3 of his turnovers were in the first half, and he had 4 steals. But it's just kind of been the same story all year, right? He gives you great plays, and then he gives you plays that make you kind of slap your forehead. But I will give him credit for steadying the ship in the second half, if not exactly, putting together a great second half.
Yeah. Again, you do he does what you asked him to do. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I would have liked more offensively, but we had McCottry going, and I think one of the bench players is just going to have to show up. I don't think we can count on Swope, Jimerson, and Avila to all have solid games.
Right.
And you have to have at least 3 guys scoring, I think. If you're not going to get, more even production.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fouls. This is wild.
Yeah, SLU had 15 fouls compared to just 8 in the entire game for Rhode Island. Normally, I think we'd have more to say about this, but Rhodey just was not aggressive at all at either end. So I didn't necessarily have a problem with it in this game. It was kind of like, we missed a lot of layups that I didn't feel like that was because fouls weren't getting called. We missed a lot of open threes. Just at no point did I feel like, oh, they're letting Rhodey play, right? Like they just weren't.
No, yeah.
Hard.
I don't remember a single point in this game having any issue really with the officials.
No.
Not even one time. The foul, I'll take that back. McCottry gets the N1. Two prior possessions, Avila was fouled both times and didn't get a single call. And then I thought the foul on Avila on the pseudo alley-oop layup or whatever it was, where he threw it back door and Avila turns around. I didn't see anything there, and I don't, if Avila didn't think he touched him, I don't think he touched him.
Right.
Because I didn't in real time. Give me some more humorous stats. This one seemed to be a statistical anomaly to kind of roll into a Stu Durando. He put out on Substack, I think, about some anomalistic stats. I don't know, whatever.
Okay. Well, sorry if I'm being redundant. I haven't read it.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But SLU had 4 players with 4 assists each. So Avila, Swope, Jimerson, and Johnson each had 4 assists. Picard, Warlick, and Johnson each hit their only 3-point attempt, which is crucial to me, right? Because a lot of these guys don't get a whole lot of looks. So just to hit the one, I think goes.
Yes. Yeah, I think we can all agree, though, that Johnson should have been a smidge more selfish in this one and in every game, honestly. Because in this one, he had 1 or 2 more chances to unleash a 3 and didn't. And by God, the guy's shooting 40% plus from beyond the arc. It's ridiculous on minimal attempts. And I get that's not unheard of, right? It's not weird, but like I could stand to see him shoot a little bit more. I'm willing to, take the risk. I'm trying to think of a guy though in SLU history who would only get about 1 a game and you were super comfortable with him taking it.
Yeah, that's I'm sure somebody will pop into my head at about 3 hours from now. But no, he's shooting, Zach, 2.2 threes per game, which is by far the highest number in his career. Last year, and West Virginia was the only other year where he shot more than 1. He took 1.5 a game, but he was a 32% 3-point shooter as a freshman, 20% on very low volume as a sophomore, 28% last year. So the fact that he's shooting 415 from 3 this year is remarkable. In addition to the fact that it's a big increase in volume, it's
like Tommy Liddell out here.
Yeah, for real.
Well, maybe Tommy was one of those guys that, like, I don't remember him taking a lot of threes, even after he worked that whole summer on his 3-point shot. I still don't remember him like lining up a lot of them.
You're gonna make me like be digging through Google here in a minute, but no, I think his volume was definitely higher. Higher than this. So anyway, you're right. He does need to be a little bit more selfish. But speaking of SLU shooting from 3, 15 of 38 from 3. I know neither of those are a record. I think 39 is the record that we shot against Wake Forest as Durando.
We've known Schertz to look for any place for strategic ideas. Maybe they popped out the PS2 and played College Hoops 2K7. And maybe there's like, fuck it, let's chuck.
Let's just chuck. Yeah. Well, at least in the Wake Forest game back in '95, they had Tim Duncan inside. So I think we were probably just afraid.
And who they have Claggett and Highmark outside? Yeah, of course they took 38 threes.
That is a formula right there for we are not going inside the perimeter.
Yes.
Arguably, the best power forward of all time in the history of this sport standing inside there. But no, like that's a huge attempt number, 38 3-pointers. But I'll absolutely take 39.5% with that kind of volume any day.
Yeah.
If we're going to hit 15 of 38, sign me up. They game planned apparently for a lot of kick and drive threes based on Rhode Island's defense because the Rams tend to flood the paint. So they expected over 30 attempts. I didn't think they would approach 40 attempts. So this was part of the game plan. And luckily we were hitting enough of them to justify it. And really, if Robbie hits, just call it 2 more of those, first 9 attempts. Again, it's a completely different scoring margin early, but the 3-point shooting percentage also looks like completely justifiable.
And I'm not sure if he hits a couple more early that he doesn't take as many as he did.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe we see a lower volume of shots.
They probably guard him differently at that point.
Well, that and Robbie does. I felt like Robbie was trying to shoot himself out of a slump. Like he was hunting it in some ways, I thought.
Yeah.
As much as you saw him kind of look off the three, I thought he was hunting it a little bit.
He only did it briefly, like in a part of the second half after he missed his first couple attempts, I think is where he kind of ditched it for a few possessions, but he came back to it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was getting so open. It like I would not have been able to resist that temptation if I were him either.
It was a probably one of the best attended games of the year, Pete. And I think it's no surprise given that it was a high entertainment value game. You had the Saint Sations Alumni Night, which gives visions of when all the Red Rangers teamed up in Power Rangers. Don't ask me why I remember that, but that's the vibes it gave off. And by the way, there are going to be quite a few of cheer alumni babies in the baby race next year because there was a high volume of alumni that were out there dancing and were pregnant. But the baby race was this one, and they also did the big baby race after the game, which Guy Phillips kept talking about this. And the problem with Guy Phillips is he's such a chucklehead moron that I don't know when the fuck he's being serious or not. And he kept talking about the big baby race was coming up next. And I'm sitting there like, Guy Phillips, shut up. The game's over. Let us all go home. But then I saw the video on social media and it was like they got the frat guys to dress up in onesies and crawl the baby race. God. Yes, it was quite humorous. Like they need to do this at a timeout. They need to do this at a timeout, not after the game, because it's fantastic. Or do it. Wow. I don't know. But anyway, the baby race, by the way, the results are in, Pete.
Yeah, and congratulations to Ellie, winner of the 20th annual Royal Banks baby race that was held at halftime, not the big baby race afterwards. She beat out some tough competition, Zach, from second place finisher Penelope and third place Ben. But I heard a lot of babies never really got off the blocks in this one.
Yeah, no, I heard there was more Guy Phillips shenanigans too. The false start from Guy Phillips.
People were not thrilled with his performance this year.
They take
the baby race seriously. You can't mess it up.
You have to stay on script. Like you cannot let Guy Phillips deviate from the script. He's terrible. Like he's not funny. He's not funny, and he doesn't. Like your job as PA is to inform. The guy who has to announce an emergency in the building cannot be a joker. Yeah. Like I'm like if there's an emergency in the building, it's gonna be Guy Phillips announcing it.
That's right.
Like I'm sorry.
You're right. No matter what it is, like they're gonna be like, I don't think there's really a fire.
That's right. Like I didn't think there was gonna be a big baby race.
Yeah, you mean a metaphorical fire there, Guy? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the roof is on fire. Like Guy, chill, dog.
Yes. No, literally, the roof is on fire. Please exit in an orderly fashion. He's I've never liked him.
I don't like it. The thing is when he's not there, I don't notice. But when he's there, I certainly notice.
Yeah,
because he's awful.
That's a good way of putting it.
Brian Kelly is fantastic. Let Brian Kelly do it. I told you people this. Like I told you to hire Chris Ackles 15 years ago, and you didn't. Do you know what Chris Ackles did after that? He went and PA'd Notre Dame football.
Yeah.
Guys.
I mean, come on.
It's easy. Anyway, he's doing something big too now. He's doing big things out there. I saw him on LinkedIn, and don't get on LinkedIn, by the way. LinkedIn sucks.
It's a weird place.
It's awful. Now I'll be blackballed from every job ever for saying LinkedIn sucks. They're going to nerf my account.
Everybody knows it. It's a deal with the devil.
Pete, we got a game. We got a date with Davidson Tuesday the 25th. North Carolina in February, Pete, will give the Billiken men's basketball team the opportunity to break out their best Vineyard Vines Billiken apparel.
I guess or the Peter Millar.
Yes,
if they're so inclined.
What did you see where home field was the on-field jacket provider for a college baseball team or whatever?
Yeah, Austin P.
Yes,
Austin
for
P.
Austin
Yes.
P.
Yeah.
Well, can we get Vineyard Vines to be the sideline apparel provider for this game only?
Yes, for this game only, or maybe the game at Richmond, but definitely this one. Davidson, Zach, this year is 16-11 overall. They're 6-8 in A10 play under Matt McKillop.
Seats now getting warm.
Third season atop the program that his dad led for so many years. Yeah, hard for your seat to get warm in year 3 when your dad's name is on the floor, but that's where he is. They're pretty mid under him.
Nepotism.
Games over 500 since he took over. I want to say 47-44 is his all-time record there. Their best non-conference win this season was against Providence on a neutral floor. That was between games where they got absolutely smacked by Gonzaga and Arizona. Their conference wins are over Richmond twice, Fordham twice, UMass, and Duquesne. So they haven't shown yet that they can actually beat a top half team. And they finished the season against SLU, VCU, Loyola, and St. Bonaventure. So it's very much a backloaded schedule. Zach, what if I told you that this season's edition, and I'm glad you're sitting down.
Was that your Davidson, 30 for 30 voice?
It is. Yeah. Featured a bunch of tall, skinny white guys who can shoot. I know it doesn't sound like Davidson.
Gasp!
Yeah.
Perish the never.
Unrecognizable. If you change the jerseys, you'd never know who this was. The problem is they just aren't as good or as deep overall as they were in Bob's day.
Is this like the best example that in-game coaching matters? Because theoretically, Matt McKillop, again, I talk about just do the playbook. Just do the same thing. Theoretically, Matt McKillop just had to do the thing that his dad's been doing, but he can't do that thing you can't replicate on the fly.
I think you got to start with the continuity, right? And then over time, you figure out the places where you deviate from dad's style. I don't think you come in there right away like, I'm going to put my stamp on it, because you do risk belly flopping. And I don't know if that's exactly what's happened or not, but they're just not the same, right? The best player this year is a vintage Davidson player, Reed Bailey, a 6'11 junior, currently leading the A10 in scoring, 19.7 points a game. He actually is a 47% three-point shooter, but he only takes about one a game. However, he does...
You're describing Kobe Johnson, but taller.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. He does lead the conference in 2-pointers made and attempted.
You're not describing Kobe Johnson.
Free throws made and attempted. That's really not describing Kobe. I think Kobe's shot like 10 free throws this year, but he's been to the line 199 times.
199 times.
199 free throw attempts, 2/3 of the way through the season. He's a really smart, crafty player. He's a good rebounder and passer. Like I said, a vintage Davidson player. He just doesn't have enough around him.
This is going to be an incredible matchup.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I can't wait to see how this goes. It's a really interesting matchup. Bobby Durkin is their number 2. He's a 6'7 sophomore. He scores 14.7 a game. He leads the Wildcats by far in three-point shooting. He makes about 3 a game, and he takes about 8 a game. So not the top percentage, but he's the top volume guy. He also averages just over 6 rebounds. Connor Cochera, we know him by now. He's been around, 6'5 senior. He scores 13.6 a game. He's only a 30% three-point shooter, but like the other two, he rebounds, he passes, and you can't put him on the free throw line. This is a really good top 3 in terms of free throw shooting. They're all in the high 70s, low 80s. SLU needs to repeat the defensive rebounding effort that they did against Rhode Island. I'm not saying you can't give up one offensive rebound, but you can't let them beat you on the offensive glass. They don't hit it particularly hard, but
if you give up an offensive rebound, that ball is going directly out to the perimeter, and they shoot well from 3.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. So because they're not the best rebounding team, that's where you have to make up that differential, because they don't turn it over much at all. They're one of the best in the country, just 9.5 per game. So if you want another game with that positive free field goal attempt, differential, it has to come on the glass because you're not going to force a lot of turnovers out of this team. Their offense is all about ball movement, spacing, to lead to efficient shooting on all three levels. The defense is arguably kind of a bend don't break style that we're kind of used to. They're pretty average as a defensive team. I think this is a game where some bully ball would kind of come in handy because I think they're pretty soft, but that unfortunately is just not SLU's game.
I mean, I would call Avila for being a finesse player inside. Like, he's kind of a bully.
Yeah, you know what? Him backing down Bailey, I think is going to be something we see.
Oh, it's going to be so fun.
Bailey, for as long as he is not a great shot blocker. He's pretty average in that regard. The other thing I would say, Zach, is that coming off a game where you got good bench minutes from guys like McCottry and Warlick, cut those dogs loose in this game, I would say, because like Davidson, as skilled and as smart and as good as they are at certain things, they are pretty soft.
Yeah.
Like Richmond.
Let Warlick get that fat ass. I mean, just boom, boom.
He had 4 fouls in 11 minutes the other day.
Don't clip that out and post to Twitter.
Go out there and catch a body or two. So I think there's something to be said for being able to kind of sucker punch him here and there, not literally, but
no, literally.
But
I'll wear that.
Body them a little bit, yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, if that, I think that's one element where you can kind of gain an upper hand on a Davidson team.
We have a Saturday, March 1st rematch versus Loyola. It is Mardi Gras in the Lou. It is an afternoon Billiken game. It's beautiful. It is tradition.
Yeah, Zach. And it's Loyola, not Dayton for this Mardi Gras game.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said Dayton. Why did I say Dayton?
No, I don't know if you did say Dayton. I was just saying, tradition. We normally
play
Dayton.
Do we?
We always play Dayton on that Mardi Gras game.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot. Anyway, the Ramblers have definitely returned to their winning ways after falling hard in mid-December for about a month. They've now won 4 straight, 6 of their last 7, coming off a 76-72 home win against Dayton on Friday. They'll host GW this week before coming to SLU. Jaden Dawson's been great lately. We were lamenting the 6 of 9 3-point shooting performance against SLU a couple weeks ago, but he had similar performances in the games right before and after that one. He was a little bit quieter against Dayton, fouled out with 5 points in 27 minutes, but I expect him to bounce back against GW. Des Watson stepped up with Dawson out, scored 22 against Dayton. He has now been in double digits in his last 7 games, scoring above his season average in the last 6. And he's been over 40% from 3 in the stretch as well. The crazy part is that the other member of their big 3, Sheldon Edwards, also has 7 straight double-digit games. He's not scoring quite as much as the other 2, especially Watson, and he isn't going off like Dawson has in a few games, except when he hit 7 threes against Richmond. But he's just been really steady. So it's interesting to me that their big 3, they're all about 13 points a game for the season. They're very, very consistent, right? So that's just that's kind of one area where they kind of kill you. But Miles Rubin's the other guy we need to worry about because of what he did last time. He's that big long center who scores on lobs, blocks shots. He's a tricky matchup for our guy Robbie. So it's all about those 4. They've got some good players outside of that, but to me that's what this team is. Keep the guards from going off from outside, defend those inbound unders to neutralize Rubin, be aware of their shot blockers. They're a good shot blocking team, especially Rubin. Figure out how to manufacture some turnovers. Their offense is built around good ball movement. So I'd say get into those passing lanes, kind of disrupt there. And please take care of the ball. Don't allow that quick run, that they beat us on in Chicago. Don't allow for those to happen. That's the kind of thing where, they're not a team that normally runs away with games, but that's where there's some danger here.
It's preventable too. I mean, I thought the finish in Chicago was totally preventable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a bit self-inflicted.
This, like I mentioned, it's a really good start time for the traditional Billiken Mardi Gras game. 3 p.m. You go get your morning Mardi Gras-ing in, and then head over to Shavitz Arena for kind of a come down before you ramp it back up if you're so inclined in the evening. Looking at you, SLU students. Get there. and be nuts.
Yep.
SLU's giving away 2,000 Mardi Gras themed shirts, not Josh shirts, t-shirts. So, good reason to show up early.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Get that shirt.
Let's go around the A10 and tell everyone why George Mason is not as good as people think they are.
Yeah, Zach. Tuesday the 18th, Loyola 77, Davidson 69.
Nice.
Wednesday the 19th, you had VCU 80, UMass 51, Richmond 63, LaSalle 58, St. Joe's 79, George Washington 68, and then Duquesne 73, Fordham 64. Why don't you take us into the weekend here, Zach?
Yeah. Loyola 76, Dayton 72. You love to see that, Pete. 78 for St. Joe's on Saturday, Richmond 62. Davidson 80, Fordham 69. Nice. VCU 70, George Midson 54. Bonaventure 70, Duquesne 63, GW 74, UMass 52. Pete, I took great pleasure in watching UMass be brought back down to planet Earth like the mid-ass team they are. They're in the muck along with us. They're no better.
You mean Mason, right? You said UMass, but I think
no, I said Midson. Oh, sorry, I said UMass at the end. Oh, did I? UMass sucks. They're not in this conversation. They're terrible.
Yeah, right. That's why I was like, no, they're not being dragged down.
George Frodson, George Midson, whatever. I just don't think they're any better than the muck of the teams behind VCU. Despite what the standings say, because again, you mentioned they don't intentionally babysit Mason or baby Mason, but like that's what their schedule's baby soft.
Yeah, I think it just kind of broke that way this year because
it did, but also
the A10 just didn't have them as one of the teams that they thought was going to be good, right? Like it's very clear that the A10 thought. So
we're inflating the record of those. We're inflating like I get that we're going for. I get what they're going for. They're going for the at-large bid, and that is what the top three teams care about. But like inflating George Mason, like. Their record is exactly what it did, and it put them in first place. Like I get that Dayton should have won, we should have won, but again, you don't have two against. Take your pick of Dayton, Loyola, or VCU.
Yeah, so they do have the more favorable home and homes, and they didn't get stacked up with. So they played the other thought to be best teams once, and they won 3 overtime games in conference. All 3 overtime games they played, including a double overtime against George Washington.
They lost to Richmond.
They lost to Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, they beat Richmond. They play Richmond the second time. All they've done is really just beat the teams on their schedule, right? So yeah, like at Rhode Island, that's a bad loss. At VCU is not a bad loss. I think most of us predicted it. It was really a close game for a while too. It took a while before VCU started to run away with that one, and then they did with a big emphatic statement. But that was a low-scoring grind of a game until VCU blew it open, and I don't know.
I would not be surprised if Duquesne beats Mason.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I also think it's equally, or if not more likely, that Mason just wins out, right?
Yeah, which is VCU, so sad, isn't it? So sad.
It is
because I don't see VCU winning out.
They finish with Fordham and LaSalle at home and Duquesne and Richmond on the road, and I defy you to find an easier 4-game stretch to finish.
Oh, VCU does? I thought VCU had Dayton one more time.
No. That's Mason. That's Mason. Yeah, no, VCU has a tougher finish than that. I mean, I think everybody does, but VCU has to play at Richmond and Duquesne, and then they have Davidson and Dayton at home. So, the road games there are pretty favorable, but that Dayton game at the end of the season is a tough one. But VCU's just been so good lately, Zach, that I have since they played SLU, that I have a hard time seeing them. I mean, I think I guarantee 3-1, if not 4-0 for them.
I think VCU is so much more vulnerable in the conference tournament. Like, I think they're the class of this league, but I also could absolutely see them going in and laying an egg in the second or third, like their first game. It's neutral environment, their first game of the tournament. You've got a team coming off a win. I could see the same with Mason, but I think it's absolutely more likely. But I think VCU feeds on momentum much more than the rest of the conference.
Yeah, I do think there will not be a motivation problem though, because
they're in DC too.
VCU is right now one of the first 4 teams out in a lot of the sort of like bracket prediction,
which is crazy.
Sites. Yeah, so I know, because to me they are a top 25 team. They're a really good team.
I'm telling you, the numbers are all made up with these rankings, man. It really feels that way,
man. It really is fixed in favor of the power conferences anymore. There's no way to. I mean, they have built an absolute fortress.
Like Drake's not ranked.
Yeah, there are some really good teams. So you're going to see like 11 to 14 seeds, really surprising power conference teams in the tournament, just because nobody talks about these teams all year because of the whatever numbers or systems. You just don't get these games anymore. So. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic, but I just think VCU is a really good team.
Yeah.
Mason, I know you love to call them fraudsters, but that's a very good defensive team. Offense is suspect.
If SLU, we run away with that game if SLU was able to convert and not throw away passes. It's just.
Or if they didn't have just a random dude go off.
That too. I mean, there's at least 3 things you can point to and say that one of those things alone definitively could cost you the game, and you did 3 of those things happen to you.
I'll put it this way: I would have loved to have a second crack at that team
in
the regular season.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. I hope we get them in the tournament. I want them. Yeah,
well, we'll see if it breaks that way, Zach, because right now VCU has got the 1 seed. They're tied at 12-2 with Mason at the top of the standings, but they've got the tiebreaker. Loyola is 3rd at 9-5 now. Dayton and St. Joe's and SLU are all tied at 8-6. We split with St. Joe's. I don't know what the tiebreaker is after that. Dayton, we have a chance to split later this season. We'll see. St. Bonaventure and George Washington are.
And they get the tournament at home. And they get the freaking tournament at home. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. Close to home anyway. So St. Bonaventure and George Washington tied at 7 and 8. At 6 and 8, you've got a little bit of a logjam with Rhode Island, Davidson, and Duquesne. 6 and 9 is UMass. Richmond is 5 and 10. LaSalle 4 and 10. And Fordham is back in last place at 3 and 11.
Man. Keith Ergo, what happened?
Don't know, man. Don't know.
Anything here that screams surprise to you besides Mason?
I think Mason's the surprise of this season. I think otherwise, though, the league thought that VCU, Loyola, Dayton, SLU were the top teams, and then they've more or less been there. Like the 5 teams that the league thought were the top 5 teams are all in the top 6, right? Yeah. Mason's the outlier there. So no, I don't think anybody else is a huge surprise. Did I want to be in that top 4? Absolutely. We were for most of the season. I think just given the tenor of the season, I think the biggest surprise to me is just how Bonaventure has fallen off.
Yeah.
Given what they did in the non-conference, and
they're still sitting just below us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 7 and 8, so a game and a half, but within striking distance.
I don't know, man. This conference is just it's somehow went through chaos to get chalk.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I don't know. Survivor picks. Pete, I am out after LaSalle loses to Richmond at home. Thanks a lot, Dunphy.
Yeah.
You suck. Overrated ass coach.
Ever since you went down to the second chance bracket, you were really feeling it.
I was.
You were kind of on a heater there, but yeah, unfortunately that one didn't go your way. I had Rhode Island over LaSalle on the 15th and got that win. This week, Zach, I got my pick in. I kind of agonized over this one with a couple other games that I would have won had I picked those because I was looking at GW over UMass, and that wound up being a pretty comfortable win. I was looking at Davidson over Fordham, and that was a blowout until Fordham got back into it, but eventually lost in the end. So either one of those would have been fine, but what I'm left with is Loyola, who I hadn't picked yet, over George Washington. And I have that on the 26th. So we'll find out in a few days if I am still in the big money pool. I don't know. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. And one of the reasons I didn't go with George Washington, Zach, is actually because they have LaSalle and Fordham in their last week of regular season play. So I can pluck one of those games. So I kind of looked ahead a little bit here. And I'm counting on Loyola still playing some good ball. Even though GW beat up on UMass. So hopefully that doesn't carry over for the Revs into Chicago. But yeah, I really like how Loyola's playing lately.
Let's get into recruiting. And I have a question.
All right.
There's a new offer out. Quentin Coleman, Principia High School. He was at the game on when was that? I don't know. My days are all messed up. Saturday? He's at the game Saturday. He attends Principia. His last name's Coleman. There's an assistant coach that was just hired at Principia High School the last 2 years named Tyler Coleman. We've talked about him before. Are they related? And I mean, I got to ask the question, right? Did they come as a package deal to Principia?
So I had that same thought, and not that I know of is my answer. They don't look alike at all. Tyler is a very distinctive looking person. Quentin does not look like him, but so I don't know. So I'm just basing this on maybe there's recessive genes or whatever, but for two guys who are in the same place and have the same last name,
it's 2025 messy family trees.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I have not found anything that says that, and just my hunch is no, but I don't know. But what I can tell you about him is he, in addition to playing at Principia, which is a very, very good team this year, they're like 25-1. They've got a few D1 prospects. He plays AAU ball for MPJ, Michael Porter Jr. Elite, which is a Puma program. He's leading these D1 prospects. The main other two guys are 2027 players, sophomores, but he leads the team in scoring, rebounding, and steals. He's second in assists. He's a long, lean guard. He scores on 3 levels. He's got a good-looking shot with range. He knows how to make space for himself and create chances for his teammates. I really like his last dribble or two to gain separation. You never know quite if he's going to step back, if he's going to step to the side. He really knows how to make that extra space to get a good shot. SLU is his third offer after Lindenwood and Austin P, but his stock is really rising fast. He's got a ton of interest. I can always tell if a player is hot when you go into his follows on Twitter, and Twitter only shows you like the last 60 or so follows now. They used to show you all of them, but now they only show you the more recent ones. And it's almost all college coaches. That's pretty rare that like the last however many, right? Like normally I can only pick up a few in the last 60 or whatever they show. But he's got a lot in there right now. And so that tells me a lot more are looking at him. And that includes, Big East, Big Ten teams, a lot of big time programs. So yeah, like you said, he was at the Rhode Island game with their assistant coach, Tyler Coleman. And hopefully he liked what he saw and that it went well. I like the look of him, and I really like the trajectory he's on right now.
I have this image in my mind of an SOP for every time you offer a recruit or you start recruiting somebody, and in the SOP is follow on social media.
Yeah, for real.
I don't know why I had that vision in my head, and I thought it was funny. Akil Lonati. This is an interesting one.
This is a new one, and he's the thing that's interesting here is it's been months since we've had a 2025 name, right? He's an Italian 6'5" guard who plays for Olimpia Milano.
Please show some respect to Rick Majerus when you say Italian.
Italian.
Thank you.
He's an Italian guard. Milan, Italy. He put up 20 points against an outstanding USA national team at the U17 World Cup. Like that national team has some future NBA players on it. He's a great shooter off the catch. He's got a really unorthodox physicality. He kind of I don't want to say he hunches, but he's just got really an unusual, style, physicality, but really a fluid game despite that. And he plays with just a ton of confidence, swagger, craftiness to his game. He's really fun to watch. I would recommend going onto Twitter or wherever and looking him up. Akil is Achille, Lonati, Lonati. And there's plenty of video on him. I like him quite a bit.
Guess what I'm doing tonight before I go to bed?
Yeah, exactly. The other offers he says he's got right now, VCU, Xavier, St. Bonaventure, Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, Washington State, and UC Santa Barbara. It's hard to say who else is interested on some of these international kids, especially when they don't have much of a social media profile, or at least that I could find. And, this afternoon when I was putting the final notes together, final edits from my end on the notes, all I could find was Florida Atlantic. So I don't really know who else is interested, but it generally is going to be a lot more than what we can see on the international kids, at least publicly.
If Josh Schertz is offering a player, you're damn well sure that Sean Miller has his nose up his ass.
It's
right
funny
behind.
how that works.
Yeah. But also I did notice that he is the way they worded the tweet was that he's considering American college basketball. That may not be his final decision, so he may not pick any of these schools.
The international guys are always a little risky in that regard, in that it tends to be a very late in the calendar, proposition, right? I think when they come over, when they sign, all that kind of stuff happens late. The other thing is they're always going to have pro opportunities. He's already playing in a pro level that would allow him to still play in college, but that is pretty easy to springboard out of, or get deeper into that European club system. So yes, I think they leave their pro options open just because that's how it works. And will he come to college? How long will he stay in college? All of those things remain to be seen. But I really like the look of him as a prospect. He's a gamer.
It's not a risky proposition.
I think I do, Zach, and that's 2 men in a garden salsa. It's not risky because it's so good and it's so consistently good. Like I said last week, I had to look up some local salsas to kind of figure out, what my options were here in Cincinnati, and whether we have anything that's even comparable to 2 men in a garden. And the only truly local one I could find, they only sell at farmers markets. I thought there was a location near me, but it turns out it's a seasonal farmers market. So the next closest one I could find is something called Frog Ranch in small town Gloucester.
It's not as good.
Ohio.
I don't even have to try it. It's not as good, Pete.
It isn't as good, Zach. I got the hot, and I would say it's very mild, and it's fine, right? Nothing against the fine people in Gloucester, Ohio. It's just not the same. So it's just a painful reminder every time I do this, every time I let too much time lapse, that I've got to go back to 2minutegarden.com, and I've got to put in an order. I've got to keep myself stocked at all times. It's just really what it comes down to. I don't get back to St. Louis enough, as much as I'd like to. And so I've got to do it online, and that's fine. You can go to 2minutegarden.com. You get $9.99 nationwide shipping. You can't beat it. And you can't beat the product either. It's consistent. It's great. Go get some for yourself.
You got to put an order in for some salsa.
That's right.
On the women's side, The Billikens split the Women's Arch Baron Cup 72 with a 72-63 win against Dayton here at Chaffetz Arena Wednesday the 19th. This was a close game, but it was also a game that I thought the Billikens really maintained a nice distance from Dayton for most of the game.
They really did. They had to gut it out over the course of the fourth quarter, but they kind of, like you said, nursed that small lead. Dayton got within 2 several times, but SLU always had an answer, which is just a promising, I don't know, way to win a game, right? I just thought, I thought they were really impressive at the way they never let Dayton go on that run.
No, they didn't. And they also, had a good contribution in the scoring attack. It was balanced. 4 players in double digits. Brooklyn Gray, my favorite women Billiken right now, 15 off the bench in 25 minutes, going 9 of 10 from the line. Sean Anumeli scored 14, also coming off the bench, and went 2 of 4 from outside. They needed to get her going, and they need her to win games. Tiara Simon had 13 and 7. And she looked like she may have tweaked her ankle late, but did not look serious. Perhaps a Jimerson scenario.
Yeah, probably even lighter than that, given that she did well on the next game.
Kennedy Calhoun had 11 and 7 and did a better job of protecting the ball. Only 3 turnovers. That has plagued the season for her. She was also by far the leader in plus minus. She was plus 16. Nobody was better than plus 8. Hannah Wallace continues to come along at a nice kind of steady improvement.
Yep.
She struggled a bit with turnovers. She had 5, but otherwise looked good and created turnovers at the other end. She just looks like a gamer. She looks like she belongs from her first game as a Billiken. And I think she's got a bright future, whether here or somewhere else.
Yeah.
You got to say that with everybody. Yeah, hopefully here. SLU had some turnover issues as a team, but they came in clusters. They finished with 19, but they got 21 out of Dayton. They pushed the tempo well against Dayton, keeping the Flyers on their heels. Finished with 27 fast break points. Early in this game, Dayton was pressing. And they really tried to force SLU to speed up and turn the ball over, but that just was not happening at any sort of consistent clip for Dayton. The finish wasn't perfect. The 3-point shooting wasn't necessarily back. 4 of 14, but the shot selection was good. Overall, just a nice win to split the regular season series between Dayton. Hopefully they get another shot at them in Henrico. It's Henrico, right?
I think it's actually Henrico.
Whatever. Who cares? It's a coastal city. Who gives a shit? The flyover states are where it's at.
It's Richmond. Yeah.
Overall, again, nice win. Strong performance in a rivalry game. Pete, 84-72 loss at Duquesne. Take the reins on this one.
Yeah, this was Saturday the 22nd, and the final score, that 12-point deficit, is really a lot closer than this game was for most of the time. SLU used a 26-15 fourth quarter to pull closer. Megan McConnell, Zach, is exactly who we highlighted in the scouting report, and she was better than expected. 22 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds, almost a triple-double with a 20-10-10.
She is Teresa Lish.
She's awesome. She's 3 steals, 7 of 10 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. She did it all. SLU had absolutely no answer for her. Duquesne really knows how to move the ball around well, and she's the catalyst to all of it. She's really the catalyst at both ends. Gabby Hutchinson for Duquesne had 19 and 10, and they had a third player who had 16 points. On SLU's side, Tiara Simon had 11 and 9. And even made a couple 3-pointers, but she did have 6 turnovers. But the good news is her ankle was not a problem. If you are looking for some positive notes here, though, Peyton Kennedy had 19 points off the bench and went 3 of 7 from 3. So if this is a sign that she's returning to form, that's a huge development for SLU for the last few games of the regular season. SLU did well on the offensive glass, 15 of them to just 10 for the Dukes, and second chance points were 18 to 5. But this game was really just about one outstanding player controlling the game, making everyone on her team play better. It was just one of those things. Like, you can't point to any individual like kind of stat or thing that SLU did. They didn't have an answer for her. She was just better. And so credit to Duquesne and Megan McConnell. She would be a very, very good player at an SEC school, or like, whatever big program she wants to go to. They did also say maybe WNBA, but man, oh man, oh man, is the WNBA hard to make it into.
There's not enough teams.
There are just not enough roster spots in any given year. When with 12 teams, I think there's going to be a 13th next year. And then they're going to expand a couple more after that. But maybe someday she shows up there. But it's, the unfortunate thing for her is that it's just such a small league that it's a numbers game. And so only the absolute best of the best of the best get to go there, which is a shame because she deserves to have a long career somewhere. She's an awesome player.
Absolutely. Next up for the Billikens, Pete.
Wednesday the 26th, they will have Rhode Island. Rhode Island's 16-13 overall, but they're 11-5 in conference, and they've won 3 straight. They're a good defensive team. They hold opponents to just over 55 a game. They beat SLU by 20 on December 29th up in Kingston with Honey Carr, if you remember her name. 7-10. Yeah, she's still the player to worry about. She's their best player. She and Sophie Phillips both went off from 3 against us last time, and then their point guard, Sophia Vital, had a Yuri Collins like 14 assists in that game, just feeding Honey. But SLU has to go big again in this game.
Jesus.
The perimeter defense, collapse on Honey, and you give yourself a chance to win.
You're gonna just keep doing that. You're gonna do that. That's your bit.
I'm more confident in the pronunciation of that than her last.
That's
name.
your bit. You're gonna collapse on Honey. You're gonna feed Honey. That's the bit you're gonna do. Jesus. And people say my jokes.
She's the queen. She's the queen, Zach. Got to protect the queen.
Oh man. You got to comb through their defense when Honey's in there.
Don't let them get buzzing.
I really hope people stuck around for
a lot of hard workers. Yeah.
Saturday the 1st, they head to Chicago. Loyola won by 3 last time. These teams met on January 18th in St. Louis. That's a problem. Loyola's really bad this year, and they've been really bad for years. Since then, they've lost 8 straight. Now they're 3-13 in conference, 11-16 overall. Their defense has been okay, a little inconsistent. The problem is they can't score, and they're turning it over a lot. And they have a lot of problems, really, is what you need to know. The Billikens have to guard the perimeter. The Loyola shot 11 of 21 from 3 in the previous game. Calhoun, we just need her to play well on defense, pressure the ball, create some havoc against Loyola. The standings here: Richmond, 15-1, Mason 13-4. That Mason team is for real, but it was good to see them lose 2 in a row. St. Joseph's 12-4, along with Davidson. Rhode Island 11-5, UMass 10-7, Dayton 9-7, Duquesne and Fordham at 8-8, VCU and the Billikens at 6-10. GW 4-12, Loyola Chicago 3-13, LaSalle 2-14, alongside St. Bonaventure in the toilet. Baseball, this weekend series was moved to Pearl, Mississippi due to weather, and also only played 2 games due to weather. Pete, give us the good news here.
Yeah, the good news, Zach, is they started this series with the 5-0 win over North Alabama on Saturday the 22nd when they played a doubleheader. They got out to a 4-0 lead in the top of the first, and not much really happened after that. Brendan Stressler hit a 2-run homer after RBI hits from Ethan Sitzman and Riley Ifrig. Ifrig also hit a solo home run in the 6th. Owen Kelly was very good on the mound, spreading out 4 hits over 5 innings, striking out 9, and then Charlie Weber and Chase Minor combined for 8 strikeouts over the last 4 innings. But Zach, game 2, not quite as favorable for the Billikens.
No, it wasn't. 8-1 loss Saturday the 22nd. The Lions blew things open with a 5-run 3rd inning. Only 2 of those were earned runs for the starter, Ben Cherico. due to 2 fielding errors. Welcome to college baseball. The Billikens got one back with a Chase Beatty solo shot in the 6th, but UNA added 3 more after that. Riley Ifrig had 3 of the Billikens' 7 hits. A very, very good weekend for Riley Ifrig, a newcomer to the lineup, whose last name I did not realize you were saying. I thought you might have been sneezing, to be honest with you, because I had my head down and not looking at the notes. The third game on Sunday was canceled due to rain. The Billikens will head to SIUE Tuesday the 25th if you're feeling froggish.
I think that game may have been canceled.
Why? It's going to be nice.
No, sorry. That one's still on. That one's
still on.
Yep.
It's going to be great.
No, I was looking at the schedule wrong.
Yeah, get over to SIUE as a little appetizer for the Billikens at Richmond when you head to Buffalo Wild Wings for the watch party in Kirkwood. I actually might do that. I'm kind of feeling like low quality wings. I haven't had low quality wings in a while.
That's the right place for low quality.
I know. That's why I'm thinking about heading there. I look, sometimes you just kind of want to slum it, you know?
I guess so.
It's like 3 a.m. at Laclede's. You just kind of I can say what I want in the non-rev section of the podcast. I can unload all my my trial material.
There you go.
Wednesday the 26th at Southern Indiana, and then a 3-game series out at Loyola Marymount over the weekend. Softball, they had a doubleheader against Evansville and Peoria Thursday the 20th. They played this because the Aces tournament scheduled for Evansville this weekend was canceled due to weather. Game 1 was a 12-2 win in 5 innings. The Billikens exploded for 8 runs in the bottom of the first and tacked on 2 more each of the next 2 innings. The big inning was a lot of small ball, RBI double, but every other run came on a single, wild pitch or throwing error. 8 of the 9 Billikens in the starting lineup got 1 hit each. Abby Olsis, 3 runs, scored playing at the top of the order, and Ashley Marietta led the Bills with 3 runs batted in. Taylor Hockman pitched 3 innings for the win. Anna Christ gave up 2 in an inning of relief, and Kate Profit closed it out. Things turned they did about a 180, Pete.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. In game 2, it was an 11-1 loss in 6 innings. Evansville flipped the script, scoring 5 in the top of the first. They out-hit SLU 12-4. Scout Gallagher, our favorite softball player by far, got SLU's only run on a solo shot in the 6th. Isabel Royal started and took the loss. She now has all 4 of SLU's losses this season. She just has not found her stuff yet. Feel bad for her, but hopefully she gets going soon. But Zach, they did tuck in a game.
I love this. This is like those COVID basketball games.
Exactly.
It's awesome. It's kind of fun. Like I think teams should be able to like leave 2 games. Like you should be able to add 1 more game to your schedule, just like a random game you could pick up in the middle of the season if you're bored.
Yeah, if it all works out. And it did against Northern Illinois on Sunday the 23rd at Lindenwood. 6-0 win is what the Bills got. Taylor Hockman pitched a 2-hit gem, and Abby Mallow and Anna Christ. It is Christ, not Christ,
is it?
Right? I don't know. They both homered.
It just reminds me of that episode of Weeds. Chris died for your sins.
Yeah, and it's always like when you just see her last name. If I'm saying Christ, like because my next note is it was Christ's first career home run and Mallow's third.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Christ took over 2,000 years for that first home run. Apparently, the game was played at Lindenwood, as I said. And Zach, they added
that ball was risen.
Okay, now we're really going to get into trouble if we don't stop on this one. This game was played at Lindenwood, and they have a double header scheduled on Monday at Lindenwood, which is today if you're listening to this fresh, against Green Bay. So they were able to add a couple more.
Not coached by Doug Gottlieb.
No, fortunately, softball has a real coach. And then they head to the Kennesaw State Tournament, February 28th to March 2nd against the host school, along with Rider, St. John's, and East Tennessee State.
That's so awesome. Just tucking in a doubleheader against Green Bay at Lindenwood
On a Monday. Yeah. Just go for it.
Yeah. Fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling. On the tennis side of things, the men lost 6-1 at Eastern Kentucky Thursday the 20th. Ricky Koshimizu got the Billikens' only point with a comfortable win at number 4. Singles. The loss was the Billikens' 4th in a row. They sit at 1-6 in the standings. One more loss than they had all last season. Next up, they play Austin P. Wednesday, March 5th. Women's side, Pete.
Yeah, the women lost 4-3 to Western Illinois, a close one on Friday, the 21st. Western took the doubles point, and they split the 6 singles matches with Emerson and White and Fiorella Duran winning in the 1 and 2 positions. Lizzie Barlow won a close one in the 6th spot. The women's team, like the men, are 1-6 after the loss. They lost 4 matches last season, so both teams have now exceeded last season's loss totals. Just not going to be the same. It's a rebuilding year under a new coach.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not convinced there's a rebuilding at all. I could see this program not existing.
If you really wanted to put some coals on that fire, there is actually there's not legislation proposed yet, but there is some chatter about potential.
Yes, I did see that.
Lawmakers going after the amount of international students in NCAA.
SLU might be screwed if they go after international students altogether, because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax. Yeah. But if they start with athletes, that's
tennis is going to be the first to go.
Tennis is all international. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know even what they would do then. You basically have a high school varsity team.
Yeah.
After that, so we'll see. That remains to be seen. But in the meantime, Friday the 28th, they play against SIUE.
Yeah, because you're going to want to save that spot for your Max Picars and your Killian Brockoffs.
Yep. They're not going to get rid of them altogether, but yeah, they're going to be.
I think at that point you just get these kids citizenship.
Probably be easier.
Indoor track and field, John Gartland Invitational at Indiana State. By the way, that's the event we teased earlier with the comment on YouTube. Journey Edmondson won the long jump with a distance of 5.89 meters, a new meet record. Riley Franz and Sonia Marin finished first and second in the women's 1,000 and registered top 5 times in school history, 2:55.37 and 2:56.20 respectively. Lucas Ivanowski. 1,000 meter time of 2:28.48. 4th all time on the men's side. The Billikens rested some key contributors, still had a number of PBs in this meet. Next up will be the A10 Championships, February 28th through March 1st in Virginia Beach. They do stream that, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, be sure and check that out if you can. It's that is a nice feed. Swimming and diving, Zach, had their A10 championships,
which I
this
missed.
Weekend at the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex, which looked cool, by the way, in photos.
We need an Aquaplex here.
Yeah, there's what's the St. Peter's Recplex? Yeah. So on day 1, 2 school records fell, both the men's and women's 200-meter relays. On the men's side, Evan Krim, Bray Sanchez, Grant Girl, and Colton Mosley swam 1:27.94, the second time they've broken the record this season. On the women's side, Megan Ang, Kenna Cashman, Sarah Dingus, and Hannah Whitley swam 1:42.88. On day 2, SLU scored in 3 individual events and 1 relay. Scoring just means finishing in the top 15. On day 3, 2 more school records fell. Bray Sanchez finished 5th in the men's breaststroke with a time of 53.88. But it was his 53.77 in the prelims that actually set the school mark. Kenna Cashman went 1:03.82 in the women's 100 meters to finish 14th, but it was also her prelim time of 1:03.68 that got the record. On day 4, SLU scored in 9 events, but Zach, unfortunately, the women finished 11 out of 11 and the men finished 8th out of 8. So swimming and diving has quite a ways to go before they're competitive. The men weren't all that far from the next spot up, but the women were like you're way off, the 10th spot. So, just a program that I don't know what to say. Just got a ways to go. I think I remember a similar finish last year. I want to say the men didn't finish last, or one of them didn't finish last and one did.
Yeah, I think I think we got the signal when they let Halliburton walk.
Yeah, to be an assistant down the road.
Yeah, at a D2 school.
D3.
D3. Cool. Great job. Well, you're doing great, sweetie. All right, that's gonna do it. We're gonna end on that note. Go Bills, Pete.
Go Bills.